Oh, what was this, like some cheap knockoff of Cannonball Run? Actually, this preceded Cannonball Run by a few years. This seems to be where they got some of the idea from. But anyway, we're going to be talking less about Cannonball as an individual film today, though it's fairly likable. I have no major issues with it. It's fairly well done for an independent action film. We're going to be talking more about reading the biography of Paul Bartel, who I think is a fairly interesting character in the history of independent films. Obviously, he's most famous for being responsible for, well, possibly most famous being responsible for Death Race 2000. Well, Death Race 2000 is a very well known film which he's credited with directing. The film that's most attributed to Paul Bartel is perhaps another film, a black comedy from 1982 of interest. Anyway, we'll get to that, won't we? Quite swiftly, actually. Yeah, I'm looking here. Paul Bartel, born August 6, 1938. He unfortunately passed away May 13th, 2000. Was an American actor, writer, and director. He was perhaps most known for his 1982 hit, surprisingly enough, I suppose. I mean, I like the film. I'm just surprised it has an audience. Black comedy, Eating Raoul, as I was referring to earlier, which he co-wrote, starred in, and directed. Very bizarre film. It's got such a vivid. You're really drawn into the world of Eating Raoul, and it's. I love that. It's a phenomenal film about the clash of cultures, and the clash of generations, rather. Anyway, Bartel appeared in over 90 movies and TV episodes, including such titles as Eat My Dust, 1976, Hollywood Boulevard, 1976, Rock and Roll High School, 1979, Get Crazy, 1983, Chopping Mall, 1986, and Amazon Women on the Moon, 1987. He frequently co-starred with friend and former Warhol girl Mary Woronov. The pair appeared in 17 films together, often as husband and wife. I know the Eating Raoul characters are in Chopping Mall. I distinctly remember that, actually. Bartel also directed 11 low-budget films, many of which he also acted in or wrote. He started in 1968 with the short The Secret Cinema, a paranoid delusional fantasy of self-referential cinema. He graduated to features in 1972 with the horror comedy Private Parts. He would go on to direct such cult films as Death Race 2000, 1975, Eating Raoul, 1982, Lust in the Dust, 1985, and Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills, 1989. So Bartel studied film and theatre at UCLA and spent a year on a Fulbright scholarship at the Centro Sperimentale Film School in Rome before returning to the US. He fulfilled his military service by talking his way into the Army Signal Corps Pictorial Center in Long Island City, and later made films for the United States Information Agency. Bartel's first films were made in high school, primarily abstract and animated 16mm shorts, including titles such as Cinema Experimental, 1954, Non-Objective Film, 1956, Margaret Whiting Sings the Money Tree, 1956, and Camel Rock, 1957. After making the 35mm short Italian-language film Proghetti, 1962, while attending the Centro Sperimentale di Cinematografia in Rome, Bartel produced for Secret Cinema, 1966. Shot on an extremely low budget in 35mm and with his own money, The Secret Cinema was the film that began his reputation as a new and unusual independent voice in narrative cinema. He followed it with another short he wrote and directed, Naughty Nurse, 1969. He co-wrote the feature Utterly Without Redeeming Social Value, 1969, also starring in the lead. He worked as an actor only in Hi Mum, 1970, directed by Brian De Palma, a phenomenal film from the great De Palma, one of my heroes. Here at AOD, we are big Brian De Palma fans. I mean, we and the different personalities in my mind. Bartel's first feature as director was Private Parts, 1972, a comedy horror film for MGM. It was produced by Gene Corman, and Bartel was in the cast. Gene Corman's brother, or famous brother, Roger, ran a production company, New World Pictures, and hired Bartel to be second unit director on Big Bad Mama, 1974, an action film. Bartel also played a small role. Of course, some of us might know Big Bad Mama, but I think we all know Big Bad Mama too. Roger Corman gave Bartel the job of directing Death Race 2000, 1975, a satirical action comedy starring David Carradine, Sylvester Stallone, and Mary Woronov. Bartel also played a small role. The film was a huge success at the box office and quickly established itself as a cult favourite. Corman promptly offered Bartel the chance to direct a similar action film with Carradine for New World, Cannonball, 1976. Bartel also worked on the script. The film is littered with cameos from people such as Joe Dante and Martin Scorsese. Bartel later said he worked for a year on Death Race 2000 for $5,000, so when it was finished I desperately needed money. The only thing anybody wanted from me was another car picture, hence Cannonball. Corman had drummed into me the idea that if Death Race had been harder and more real, it would have been more popular. Like if all I believed him. I'm not, I never have been, very much interested in cars and racing, so he decided to load up the film with cameos and character gimmicks that did interest me. Bartel was in much demand from other directors at New World to play small parts in their pictures. He appeared in Eat My Dust 1976 for Ron Howard, Hollywood Boulevard 1976 for Joe Dante and Alan Arkush, quite a large role as a director, which Bartel credited for really kicking off his acting career. Mr. Billions, 1977 for Jonathan Kaplan, not a New World film, but Bartel met Kaplan at the company. Grand Theft Auto, 1977 for Howard. Piranha, good stuff, 1978 for Dante, and Rock and Roll High School, 1979 for Arkush. Outside New World, he appeared in The Hustler of Muscle Beach, 1980 for Kaplan, and Heartbeats, 1981 for Arkush. Bartel wrote a script with Richard Blackburn, Eating Raoul, 1982. Bartel managed to raise the finance and starred in the film along with Voronov. Made for $230,000, raised by himself and his parents, it was a hit on the art house circuit, grossing $10 million and became a cult movie. There's more we can get to here, but I don't want to just keep waffling on without good reason. Well, it's not without any good reason, of course. We all like Paul Bartel, I imagine. Although I suspect that it might be more encouraging and worthwhile to motivate others to seek Bartel out at their own leisure, rather than just listening to me go on about it and then potentially never thinking about it again. So let this be your moment. Go explore Paul Bartel or not. Eating Raoul may be a better indicator, as Bartel himself, being quoted, seemed to suggest, of his output than Cannonball. Although Cannonball, in any case, if it seems like the kind of film that will appeal to you, it likely will. Thanks again, my good and dear friends. Appreciate it immensely.